Hello everyone. Welcome to my channel. Please subscribe and keep watching more details. Todd and Julie Chrisley ordered to home confinement after conviction. Todd and Julie Chrisley were ordered to home confinement after their conviction of tax fraud. What does that mean for the reality stars? Keep reading for all the details. Chrisley Knows Best stars lose court battle. Since their 2019 indictment on an assortment of federal fraud charges, Todd and Julie Chrisley have maintained their innocence. However, a jury decided otherwise. In May of 2022, the Chrisley Knows Best stars finally stood trial on charges of tax evasion and bank fraud. After a 3-week trial in which Nanny Faye and Lindsay Chrisley both took the stand, the Chrisleys were found guilty by a jury of their peers. The shocking conviction came mere weeks ahead of the return of the reality show. Chrisley Knows Best is slated to resume with new episodes of Season 9 on June 23rd. Furthermore, USA Network announced a week before the trial started that Season 10 of the popular reality stars will air this summer. Additionally, 2 of their children have their own reality spin-off. Growing Up Chrisley follows Chase and Savannah as they navigate their mid-20s. That series was also renewed for another season, which will move from the USA Network to the E! Channel this summer. Todd Chrisley is also helming a 3rd spin-off. Love in Limo features the family patriarch doling out dating advice to contestants. A day after their conviction, the USA Network has remained completely mum on the future of the Chrisley family's slew of reality shows. Todd and Julie Chrisley ordered to home confinement. Todd and Julie Chrisley won't find out their punishment for some months yet. Their sentencing hearing is set for October 6, 2022. Perhaps they'll strike a plea deal similar to Teresa and Joe Giudice, who both served time for fraud. The Real Housewives of New Jersey stars split their prison time, with Teresa serving her sentence while her now ex-husband stayed home with their 4 children. While Todd and Julie's children are grown, they adopted his son Kyle's young daughter Chloe, and raise her as their own daughter. For the next 4 months, the Chrisley Knows Best stars are on home confinement per trial Judge Eleanor Ross. However, there are some exceptions. When it's time to hand down their sentence, both Todd and Julie are facing a possible 30-year prison term each. Daughter breaks silence on conviction. Some of the Chrisley family were quite active on social media during the trial. Savannah often took to her comments to clap back at followers who brought up her parents. Since the verdict, most of the Chrisleys have stayed completely offline. However, one of Todd's daughters broke her silence. Lindsay Chrisley, Todd's daughter from a previous marriage, took to her Instagram to share her reaction. "The verdict is not what I hoped or prayed for," she wrote. She added, "I'm deeply saddened for myself, my son and my family as a whole." Lindsay famously feuded with her father for the last few years. However, it seems they reconciled right before the trial started and are on cordial terms. The warm mid-morning sun poured through the tall windows of the Nashville estate, but inside, the atmosphere felt cold enough to frost the glass. Todd Chrisley stood in the center of the living room, arms crossed, jaw tight, trying to project the same confidence he'd always displayed on television. But today, even his famous wit seemed dimmed. Julie sat on the edge of the velvet sofa, clasping her rosary so tightly it left impressions in her palms. When the phone call finally ended, she exhaled a shaky breath. "Well," she whispered, "it's official. Home confinement. Both of us." Todd blinked once, slowly, deliberately, as he tried to process the words. "Darlin', I always said this house was our castle," he muttered. "Now it's also our prison." Julie managed a faint, bitter chuckle. At least the decorating is good. But the truth weighed heavy on them. The world outside still thought of them as the glamorous, polished, larger-than-life Chrisleys. Yet in this moment, they felt more like 2 parents desperately trying to protect their children from a storm that wouldn't stop raging. Across the room, Savannah paced like she was trying to outrun her own panic. "Home confinement?" she asked for the 10th time. "So you can't leave at all?" "Not without permission," Julie said softly. "Not for errands, not for dinner, not even for church unless they approve it." Grayson, who had been silent until now, kicked at the rug with his heel. "But what about holidays? Mom, Dad, Christmas?" Todd opened his mouth, then closed it. He had an answer, but not one he wanted to say. Before he could, Nanny Faye came shuffling out of the kitchen with her walker, wearing leopard print slippers and a scowl that could melt steel. "Now listen," she boomed. "Before anybody starts crying and carrying on, we need to think practical. If y'all are gonna be on house arrest, then who's gonna take me to my bingo?" Even Todd cracked a smile at that. Julie wiped her eyes. "Mama, this isn't house arrest. It's home confinement. They'll monitor us. There are rules. Oh, honey. Nanny waved a dismissive hand. You've been following rules your whole life. You'll survive this one too. But the weight of those rules, those consequences, couldn't be brushed away. The official paperwork would arrive soon. Ankle monitors. Check-ins. Restrictions. A loss of freedom neither Todd nor Julie had ever imagined. And yet, it wasn't fear that filled the room. It was shame. The Chrisley name had always been synonymous with charm, order, perfection. But now, their neighbors whispered. Social media mocked. Former friends kept their distance like legal trouble was contagious. Savannah stopped pacing. We can fight this, she insisted. We can appeal again. We can do something, Dad. For the first time that morning, Todd's expression softened. He stepped toward her, grabbing her shoulders gently. Baby girl, he said quietly. Sometimes the hardest thing in the world is realizing you can't fix something overnight. That's where we're at. But you didn't deserve this, she whispered, tears welling. Neither of you. Julie reached out, pulling Savannah into her embrace. Sweetheart, it's going to be okay. God doesn't bring us to a battle unless he's already designed the victory. And you know what I always say, Todd added, squeezing them both. The devil stays busy, but so do the room filled with warm laughter, thin but real. It felt like the first ray of hope piercing through storm clouds. Still, reality intruded again when a firm knock sounded at the front door. Savannah opened it to find a stern-looking officer holding a clipboard. Mr. and Mrs. Chrisley, he said. I'm here to go over your home confinement guidelines. Todd raised a brow. Well, come on in. But I gotta warn you, sir, this house has seen some drama. The officer did not laugh. Inside the dining room, where the chandelier sparkled like 1,000 tiny camera flashes, the officer meticulously reviewed their restrictions. Travel outside the premises is prohibited without approval. Monitoring device must remain charged. You'll undergo random check-ins. No tampering, no exceptions. Julie nodded, absorbing every word. Todd stared at the officer with a polite smile. So essentially, you're telling me I'm grounded. At 56 years old. Exactly. Julie elbowed him gently. When the officer left, silence fell again. Finally, Julie sat down, exhausted. What do we do now? Todd looked around at the ornate decor he once took so much pride in. The marble floors. The designer furniture. The framed family photos lining the mantel. We reinvent, he declared. We adapt. And we don't let this define us. Savannah sank into a chair. What about your podcast, Mom? Dad, your business stuff? We'll figure it out, Julie said, voice stronger than before. We always do. Todd tapped his chin. Actually, this may be the perfect time for us to start something new. Nanny Faye perked up. A new cooking show? Prison food with the Chrisleys? Todd shot her a look. Mama. She cackled. What? I'd watch it. But humor aside, Todd's wheels were turning. We can share our journey. Not the scandal, the rebuilding. The accountability. The faith. Julie stood, stepping beside him. Maybe we can turn this into something that helps people. Savannah's eyes widened. Like an online series? A documentary? More like a testimony, Todd said quietly. The family fell still. For all their chaos, they understood the power of their story. Home confinement meant limits, but it also meant time. Time together. Time to reflect. Time to heal. Later that evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky with orange and pink, Todd and Julie sat on the back porch in the rocking chairs they rarely had time to use. Julie leaned her head on Todd's shoulder. You scared? He took her hand. Terrified. But I'm not scared of what happens to us. I'm scared of letting our kids down. You won't, she promised. We won't. He kissed the top of her head. Then let's prove everyone wrong. Again. Inside the house, the children laughed at something ridiculous Nanny Faye said, their voices echoing through the halls like music. Todd closed his eyes, listening. Home confinement or not, this was still home. And as long as he had his family, he wasn't truly confined. He was grounded, rooted, redeemable. Julie squeezed his hand. We'll get through this, she whispered. And for the first time all day, Todd believed her.